Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. We are here to recap Monday Night Raw took place on April 7th in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the penultimate Raw before Mania. And without further ado, let's kick things off. The show starts with Adam Pearce in the ring and quickly joined by Io, Bianca, and Rhea. And Adam, I guess the word is frustrated, but also a little excited to make this announcement. It was a strange mix of emotions from Adam. Obviously, we see he's very vulnerable in that category, but this was yeah, it's just a strange segment. But the takeaway here being that we had the announcement finally made official. Again, similar to how we've seen these announcements made before. I'm not sure why it took so long, but it did. So we're finally getting Bianca, Rhea, and Io for the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania. Um, yeah, they get each other's faces as they always do. Bianca kind of complains a bit, saying, I shouldn't have to defend against Rhea as well because I won the Elimination Chamber, and Rhea didn't like it, so she got involved. And I hate to say it, but you can't argue that logic. It's very accurate, and yeah, it is interesting how they went about doing this. But the end result all being the same, we do get Io, Bianca, and Rhea at Mania, and in my opinion, could be match of the night or maybe even weekend. So excited to see that finally announced, and we'll see where that goes. We'll see where we go from here with just one Raw left. In between this and the next segment, we get a an official announcement that I believe was announced even before the show by Adam Pearce, and that was that Braun Breaker will defend his IC title against Penta, Dom, and Finn at WrestleMania. So a bit anticlimactic as well, but I believe that's what most people kind of saw coming, or at least had hoped. Obviously, you have that dynamic between the Judgment Day that will probably be resolved there, or at least kicked into high gear. So yeah, we'll see where that one goes as well between now and Mania. And then we have our first match of the night, which is Lyra Valkyria and Bailey. Lyra is defending her Women's Intercontinental Championship, and all I can say is holy hell. This was an incredible match. Kind of came out of nowhere. Lyra's matches haven't been bad, but they haven't been anything to write home about either, typically because of the time constraints. But they let these two women go, and they let them have as seemingly as much time as they needed. This was very technical and pretty hard hitting, and in my opinion, by far the best match Lyra has had as Intercontinental Champion. And of course, Bailey being in the ring certainly doesn't help. So my main takeaways here was showing that if you give them time, that they will deliver, and then the crowd too, like myself, were very much invested in this. And yeah, this was match of the night easily, and Cole called it an all-time classic, and it's hard to disagree because just it felt like maybe that should have been a main event match. The way they had us going there, thinking that Bailey actually might win. But at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. You want us to leave us in doubt, knowing that the champion may not retain. And but on this night she did, and what a great match to kickstart the action for Raw. After this, we get LWO versus American Made and El Grande Americano. This one was a bit of a spot fest, but that doesn't make it not entertaining. Um, LWO especially were pulling out all the moves. Um, it didn't last too long before El Grande Americano, as seen here, ends up taking a pie or a piece of metal and placing it in as a mask from Ivy Nile, and then obviously that's how they end up winning the match. As shown here, I didn't think that was the end of the rivalry, and I'm sure that they were going to continue that. Probably have this rematch at Mania. But it is later announced Ray goes backstage to Adam Pearce and basically says, El Grande Americano is ruining everything that I've helped build and I've been working on my entire life. I need a match with El Grande. I'll name the time and place. Pierce, of course, agrees. And Ray announces that he wants them at Mania. And of course, Pierce agrees. And it is official. So, with that, we have another announcement and this one, this one's been building up as well. I don't think a lot of people had this one on their card yet, at least in terms of predictions. But we will get El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania, and that should be obviously a very entertaining match as well. Then we get Gunther making his way to the ring through a chorus of boos and a bit of cheers. Gunther has nothing but a smile plastered on his face the entire time until Jay gets in the ring and starts talking. But he's very much happy with what took place last week. As he's about to start talking, Jay's music hits, and I guess his attempt to show how foul of a mood he's in, he doesn't even yeet to his own music. So things are serious. That got a good laugh out of me because everyone else is eating and he's has his head down a little bit. So that's some character work for you. But in all seriousness, this promo, and Jay even tried to stop the crowd from eating, kind of telling him to stop. I'm serious. But obviously the crowd didn't stop. But Jay showed a lot of emotion here once he finally got down to the ring, and Gunther kind of matched his mood once he started talking. This is by far the best promo Jay has cut since announcing that he was going to challenge Gunther at WrestleMania. But the main message here being that he finally realized that he's no longer afraid of Gunther. So take that for what you will. It was a nice change of pace, something a little different. It was kind of strange to me how Gunther kind of was like, "Oh, okay," and then I almost acted like he didn't have anything over Jay anymore. I guess was probably the point. But Gunther shouldn't really care that much, being that he what he did last week. So, but yeah, with that, KP, two segments, two matches here. What were your thoughts overall on everything we saw here, and what were your thoughts on the Lyra Bailey match?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll start with the opener of the night, and we've obviously got Bianca, Io, and Rhea. I'm glad that this is finally coming to fruition now, and that we are definitely aware that this is going to be a triple threat match. It's official and whatnot. I don't normally have much to say about Adam Pearce that's good. But what I will say is I quite enjoyed Adam Pearce in this opening segment. I thought that he actually showed some character for once, and he actually just sort of like did something, which is kind of nice to see. Normally, he just sort of complains backstage after doing nothing that nothing gets done. Go figure. But no, to be fair, this actually seemed like something that he genuinely wanted to do, did, and surprisingly, he got a result from it. Who knew? So yeah, I enjoy the dynamic between Bianca and Rhea. Bianca is starting to come out of her shell a bit more, I think, in terms of getting a little bit more edgy, getting a little bit more sort of assertive, speaking up for herself, saying how she really feels about things, and maybe showing a different side of herself that we wanted to see for a long time. I'm not saying she is going heel, but she's showing signs and little teasers that sort of implement a different change of dynamic in her head, which could possibly lead down to that at some point going forward. And I like the look of that. So more of that, please, Bianca. That'd be wonderful. Io Sky, yeah, it's been the only thing I think I can really criticize here is the repeated shove to the face, from whether it's from Rhea, whether it's from Bianca. There's always a shove to the face whilst Rhea and Bianca are in each other's faces, and then Io's trying to sort of like step in and intervene. I feel like they could do something a little bit different. That's the only thing maybe that I'm criticizing for this opening segment. But regarding Io standing tall at the end of this one, I think that's ultimately very important. She's been made to sort of look not sort of second fiddle to these two, but I think maybe Cole did actually mention something similar lines on commentary. But No, it was good to see Io sort of like standing up for herself and actually coming out on top for the first time in a while. So all three women signed the contract, triple threat matchup. Really excited to see the match at WrestleMania. And yeah, in terms of the characters and their development going into this matchup, I think everything's going in the right direction for the time being. The matchup between Bailey and Lyra, it was quality. Yeah, I've got a lot of things to say about it in terms of just how good it really, really was. I thought both women absolutely pushed the other one to their limits pretty much. Um, yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Lyra have a standout moment in her IC title reign so far. We haven't really seen much from her in terms of like big moments, but this was a huge moment. You know, beating Bailey is obviously a very impressive feat as it is. But for someone like Lyra Valkyria, who's had the IC title for a little while now, she hasn't really done anything too noteworthy up until this point. But I think we'll look back on this and we'll think, oh, I remember when Lyra had that match against Bailey, you know, like early start of a run, or early, however long Lyra's run goes on for. But I think we'll probably look back on this and we'll probably be, yeah, something to definitely take as a memento here from this matchup. But it was great. Cold, like you said, called it an instant classic. I would probably agree with that, to be fair. And yeah, just bringing some credibility back to the women's IC title to a mid-card title in WWE. That's what we want. A little more consistent would be great. But this is a good start for that. And obviously, you know, these two have now got a tag together later in the week for the women's tag team title gauntlet match. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. There was a little tease at the end with Bailey, you know, just getting a little frustrated, but then ultimately just hugged Lyra straight afterwards. Maybe that's a tease. I don't know. But just planting seeds, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. Either way, tremendous match. Really enjoyed it. We then had, yeah, like you said, the tag team match. I really like this Grande Americano guy. I don't know where the hell they got him from, but he is brilliant. Just in terms of like everything that he does in the ring, he gels so well with the Creed brothers as well. And he seems to have something, you know, going on there with Ivy Nile, and like you know, I think it's tremendous that you know, he just settles in and everyone seems to just work well with him. It's like he's been there for years or something, but it's crazy. But either way, the match was quite fun. Like you said, it was a bit of a spot fest, but I thought that was a good thing. I'm not going to complain too much about that. I like when there are six men in the ring, you know, two tag teams. I think like when you've got sort of like a lot going on, it just makes it sort of a bit carnage, bit chaotic, and that ultimately adds to the fun of the matchup. So yeah, I enjoyed that particular fast-paced element to this one. The finish was interesting. Obviously, that little metal plate. I think it was. Yeah, I think it's probably made sense in the long run. But yeah, I definitely didn't have Rey Mysterio against El Grande Americano on my bingo card for sure. Yeah. But there you go. At WrestleMania, that's going to be taking place. Crazy, right? But no, it was a fun match. I did enjoy it. And then that promo between Jey Uso and Gunter. So I've always, basically, since he won the Rumble, and even before that, I've criticized him. But let's just talk from the Rumble. I've basically said that Jey Uso, he's not interested in me at all. Don't care about the title challenge from him against Gunter. He's already been and done that and lost. Winning the Rumble, just felt it was a bit undeserved. I think that he's shown no real progression, you know, for a long, long time now. This promo on Raw was actually something that I thought, you know what? Okay, fair enough. He actually does have a little bit of range, a little bit of depth. And ultimately, he had to do this. If he didn't do this after what happened last week with his brother Jimmy, then what is he doing? So to actually get like a serious side out of him, to not be yeeting around like an idiot, to actually take something deadly serious here, get up in the face of Gunter, and you know just berate him like he did, and show some heart and some passion. That actually like it is sort of like it shows a different side to him, which I think was definitely needed in this feud. It's been very basically like similar feeling throughout the whole thing, but now we've got a little bit of a change, a little bit of different of the feeling, and this could be very, very good for Jey Uso, especially here. But Gunter, yeah, he took it like a pro. You know, he's always going to do it like he is. Just so confident, the swagger, and he's obviously chuffed to bits of what he did last week, and I'm sure that you know, this isn't quite over just yet. We've got another week as to what's going to happen in between now and WrestleMania. We haven't got too long to really see what develops, but we'll see what happens. I'm interested though either way. And the first time I said that about this particular feud.
Yeah, it's crazy how long of a period we go without really anything or anything new happening, and then we get something like this over the last couple of weeks. Similarly with other feuds, they turned it up to 11. So I guess you blame the timing, but overall, yeah, pretty good segment from them. And Bianca earlier in the night, you made a good point about her being edgier, and I think we kind of talked about it before. But I think what's interesting about that match is that there's no real heel at the moment, Io Bianca or Rhea. So I have this weird feeling that someone is going to turn heel, and the only one that's shown really any signs of that is Bianca. Even so much as she was getting booed last night, and again, I don't think that was deserved, but I think she's certainly shown that she's become more edgier. So with that, we continue on, and we get Rey Mysterio versus Penta. And while Dom did get quite a bit of offense in here, Penta does take the match with the Penta driver. And this match was good enough. Nothing too crazy here. I think the highlight for me was McAfee calling the Mexican destroyer the toilet destroyer. Um, his humor is that of a 12-year-old, but it made me laugh. So, what does that say about me? But yeah, the main takeaways here being that Carlito gets involved afterwards, and so does Finn Balor, and so does Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker gives out two pretty vicious spears, one to Carlito as he sprints down the ramp, possibly faster than anyone I've ever seen do it. Um, and then he spears Dom as well in the ring, appearing to stand tall, but before excuse me, before Balor makes his way behind Breaker and takes him out, and Balor stands tall with the IC title. I'm sure I'm in the minority here, but I really don't want Breaker to lose that title. But this will be, obviously, I think Cole mentioned this could be sleeper match of the weekend. To me, I don't think it's a sleeper. With the talent involved here, this match should be potential for match of the night or weekend as well. We then have the New Day versus the War Raiders, and for the tag team championships. Yeah, unfortunately, this match kind of matches the tone of this division and what we've seen. Um, so this match ends in disqualification by the War Raiders. Um, Xavier Woods brought in a chair, and they take the chair from him and then hit him with him right in front of the referee. So they're disqualified. Obviously, they don't lose the titles. Um, but again, they did something like this maybe like a month or so ago. Maybe it's been 2 months now, where they just did something really dumb. And so I guess the overall point here is we're not done. I just felt like there was a better way. There had to have been a better way to do this. But yeah, like I said, this kind of just matches the tone of this division. They have other teams. They could be making this a little better, but I think the point is these two teams obviously can put on a great match, and I have no doubt that they will do that. And I assume we'll be seeing that at Mania. So yeah, interesting booking decision, but regardless, I think the main takeaway here is that the rivalry is not quite done. And then we have a main event promo with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. Paul and Seth. Paul starts in the ring and basically says he has undying loyalty to both Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and that he wanted to get the record straight. Um, but before he's able to clarify what he means by that exactly, we get Seth Rollins making his way to the ring. Seth essentially tears down both Roman and Punk, saying that their loyalty is basically only to themselves. And Seth continues to bully Paul, trying to get a reaction from Punk, noting that Roman's not there, but he wants to see what exactly he has to do to get Punk out there. Um, Paul eventually sticks up for himself and tells Seth not to touch him. Seth, kind of chuckles like, "That's exactly what I needed." Throws him against the ropes, and then of course we get the entrance of CM Punk. A little bit of back and forth here, but Seth does end up standing tall, giving a curb stomp to CM Punk, and then as Paul is next to him, Seth is close to giving Paul Heyman a stomp as well, but misses intentionally. The segment then ends with Seth saying, "Okay, and now you owe me a favor," and that's the end of Raw. So yeah, pretty good segment. And I think my theory, based on how the last week was, is that maybe Paul could side with Seth. They certainly plant that seed with this promo now. Um, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's certainly a possibility that seems a little bit more realistic now. So with that, KP, what are your thoughts on the two matches here and the main event promo?
Yeah, let's break things down then. So I think when it comes to Penta and Dom, no real shock from this one. Pretty expected outcome regarding who was involved. Penta has, I could say the same thing I always say. He's been killing us since coming to WWE, and this was no different. Just showing that momentum, keeping it rolling. Taking his first pinfall loss last week, I suppose, which was a shame for him. But quickly to turn things around, quick enough win over Dominic. It wasn't like quick, but it was nothing really too challenging, I suppose, in the end. But nah, he looks as good as he always has done. I think the dynamic with the four men involved here going into that WrestleMania match is going to be really interesting because you've got obviously Dom and Finn of the Judgment Day, and I mean you mentioned it a minute ago, and maybe we can get some sort of like answer or development in the situation. I think we will, and I wouldn't rule out here really maybe Dom just like, I don't know, showing up Finn Balor at WrestleMania perhaps, and then we get something going on between those two. But I would like to see Braun Breaker hold on to his title. Obviously, that's a different conversation for a different day. But I think it's already sort of like starting to get the gears turning in my head, and I've already started to think about this match because sleeper, is this really a sleeper, or is it just obvious that it's going to be really, really good, right? Because I can't see how this would be bad. You've got four guys in that ring who are going to just ultimately kill it, and they're calling it a sleeper. To me, that sounds maybe a little bit underrated from them. But hey, I am excited for it. I can't wait. More toilet destroyers, please. That'd be fantastic. I laughed as well, so don't worry about that one, Nick. I also found it amusing. Going on to the tag team match with the New Day. I mean, I'm a little bit gutted. I'm not gonna lie. The whole point of these championship matches being so common and like frequent going into WrestleMania, I feel like it's just literally to fill time. Like, oh, let's just put the match on here. Let's have a screwy finish, and then we can do the match again then at WrestleMania, or we can do it like the week before, or something like that. It seems to be that's like the kind of vibe here. And they always find a way to sort of like have some weird sort of ending. Like, I didn't even think this one made any sense. Like, why would Ivar even hit him with the chair anyway? Like, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I'm just sort of like just taking it completely as it is there, but maybe I'm overlooking something or missing something. But I don't know. It just really weirded me out. I really wasn't a fan of the ending, and I like you said, there must have been another way they could have done this. So, I don't know. Who knows? The match was good enough as it was. It wasn't anything special, but it was fine. But yeah, then that happened. I just lost complete interest in everything. So yeah, I don't know. Tag team division on one side, very, very good. Tag team division on this side, not so good, which is a shame. Going into what would be that main event then, and obviously Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins, with a little bit of CM Punk involved towards the end. What a segment. Absolutely quality segment here. I'm not going to lie. It was brilliant. We saw like a bit of an aggressive, threatening side of Seth Rollins, which was quite interesting. The listening to the crowd during this particular segment, I found it quite interesting because when, like, normally when someone stands up to somebody who's pretty helpless, like Heyman in this situation, it would tend to be that person gets a little bit of a mixed reaction. Maybe get some boos because obviously you're being a bad guy. And I think Seth showed enough signs of being that, but Seth just got cheered. Like it was either cheered or just sort of like intrigue from the crowd. It wasn't sort of like any hatred towards him, which I found quite interesting. And it shows that even though they're trying to add that sort of extra element here with one of these guys, I don't know, getting a little bit more sort of over the edge and just doing things that maybe they wouldn't normally do within their current character. It just shows that the crowd just love these three guys for who they really are. And they were chanting Roman Reigns, they were chanting CM Punk, they're singing Rollins' song. That's the same every week, and I don't think it's going to change going into WrestleMania. No matter how many little things they change about certain people's current characters and what they're doing at the moment, what they say, how they act, you know, it's just a credit to how much these three are really really loved. But the segment was really really good because it like I say, it showed a slightly different side of Seth, maybe a little bit more desperate, possibly, because obviously he wanted to get rid of Heyman from the situation. Punk coming down, trying to aid Heyman after Rollins had taken a little bit of a step too far, and trying to convince Heyman that these two men, they don't care about you, you care about them, but it's not a two-way thing. I just was a really big fan of it. I thought everything about this just hit perfectly. And then CM Punk getting laid out via the stomp, with Rollins then, asking for a favor from Heyman after he faked stomping him. I don't know. Like I thought that was quite amusing, that last little bit. Asking for his own favor, saying that he's owed one now. Yeah, quite interesting. Was that a serious comment? I don't know if it really was. I thought it might have been a bit of a joke. But I guess one way to find out would see what happens on Friday Night SmackDown, maybe Raw next week, go from there. But yeah, definitely really invested in this. There's a reason these three are involved in the main events every single week and they're not even having a match. But it's just purely because of the star power in the contest, and they're building it up to really make that vibe, apparent here, which is awesome. In terms of what I thought of Raw as a general, a little bit up and down, mostly ups, I will say. So that's obviously a good thing. I think ultimately the New Day and the Viking Raiders was probably the most disappointing segment of the night. But everything else, I got a lot of good things to say about, so I was quite happy with it. As a general, I thought the show was pretty good. I'd probably give it a 8.5 out of 10, which is a bit higher than recently. For the most part. Obviously, last week I was there, so that was different. But in terms of watching on from home, I just thought this one was a really good show, and I liked it. So we're moving on into WrestleMania. One more week to go. I feel like we're starting to get those last little bits over the line, which is what's needed. Just have a couple more questions, which I'm sure will be answered next week. I hope so anyway. But yeah, 8.5 out of 10. I quite liked it.
And you bring up a good point about Seth, and I noted that, but didn't quite get to it. And that Seth very much has a shtick, and he sticks to it every week. And tonight we saw something a little different, cutting a promo. And obviously, he's always had the ability to do so. But whether it's his decision or WWE's, he doesn't seem to do it often. So it was very much a nice change of pace to see Seth for once showing off what he can do on the mic. And exactly as you said, these guys are main eventing over Jay and Gunther for a reason, or the women's championship title as well. With that, I didn't doesn't happen often, but I did not quite rate Raw as highly as you did. Obviously, the War Raiders and New Day was a big point of that, but overall, the match or the show did feel like it was a bit on the lighter side, and felt like with the rushed announcements of some of these things or delayed announcements, it felt like maybe they could have done these on Raw just to have something else to do. But yeah, it wasn't a bad show. It just wasn't as good as I felt like in prior weeks. So I give this one a 7 out of 10. Again, not a bad one. And overall, they continue to build to Mania and sound like a broken record, but that's what we want at the end of the day. So, with that, this has been the Raw Recap, and this has been the push, and we will be back tomorrow with the NXT recap. And just like that, we are down to one Raw before Mania. So, if you enjoyed this recap or have any suggestions or criticisms, please drop them below. Otherwise, we will see you next time. Take care. Bye bye.